Breathe. Remember, breathe. Why wouldn't I leave it in the car? Why wouldn't they need your yard? Ay, 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 ay.
Testing.
We love it there. My parents lived there for like last 20 years.
Oh yeah?
They bought a house. Now it's out of Eagle Harbor, but they weren't in Eagle Harbor at first, and they got a house right on. It's on Lakeshore Drive, but it's Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah, because there was only a certain, well, there was only a certain number of homes on the Lakeshore Drive. Part of it.
Yeah, it's funny in the HOA. Like as people, as they sell the houses, they're making it and just retiring out
I
of
think we had everybody who's gonna be here except for Mr. Herring and,
I actually officially retired on December.
Okay.
So we just moved down here from Fort Eustis.
What'd you do?
I'm a signal officer, so I did communications and like cybersecurity. My last job. Okay.
So I did 23.
Yeah. Where you at, NAS?
what is that? What is that, the agenda?
Yeah, so the Army Navy game is going to be interesting. Yeah, my dad was 30 years in the Army, and both of their fathers, my parents' fathers, went to. Thank you.
Did you hear about that crash we had at Keystone Airport?
Oh, cool.
So when my dad graduated, he went
Huh?
in the Army, and then
Oh, yeah.
I know.
so it's good, but trying to figure out what I want to do. I did a short internship over the Skills program. So like my last couple months ago, I came down here and was able, before I started terminal leave, and did 2 months working with Howard. And so I did kind of a AI policy for the county, and
Too bad to get involved in that.
yeah, so I was thinking about it, you know, just so I could do something different.
Ma'am.
So, you know, I work, there's also another job and part-time cybersecurity consulting for like, right now they're debating the country of like Chile or Moroccan, like Department of Defense to come in and do that.
Oh, you know what?
I did a lot of time in Cybercom and NSA. But I don't know, you know, wanted to do something different, and see kind of how county government runs and stuff.
Did you get involved in this?
Yeah, that's why they asked me if I would sit on this. But it's funny, I never knew what a millage rate was until came here. So. Good, trying to just research, and you know, a lot of this is similar to like Garrison Commander type stuff.
No, you're right. It is. Yeah. That was XOCO. I actually started off in WISOs in some ways.
Oh, yeah.
I always tell people I got tired of working for a living, so I transitioned to officer.
Yeah. My husband was enlisted first, and then he retired a warrant officer.
Okay,
Exceeded
good.
before. I retired colonel. So I did brigade command. Right, but it was a little different because I had 2,000 soldiers. We ran all the networks east of the Mississippi for the Army. So for like all the 18th Airborne Corps and like those divisions and stuff. And we started really pushing the envelopes on some things, like pushing our networks into Poland when we were doing a lot into Ukraine and stuff. And so I did a lot that way. But so worked with the garrison, but my last job go to Broussard up there at Fort Eustis. And he was like triple hatted. He was a senior Army aviator. And so I learned more about aviation. Like they all have walk-up music. I was like, nobody else in the Army has walk-up music. So they told me one time like you need to pick some walk-up music for your boss. I'm like, seriously? So I picked
Great though.
Danger Zone.
Nice.
And so it was an Army Aviator conference, and they played that, and he walked up and was like, what in the hell? I was like, I don't know, sir. What do you listen to?
That's amazing.
I said, it was either that or playing with the boys,
That's
the
right.
volleyball team. He goes, what about Thunderstruck? I said, sir,
there you
only
go.
aviators think
There you go. Right.
So,
Good though. That's good.
but he was triple hatted. He was the deputy commander for trade-off when we trained in the Doctrine Command all
Busy.
Yeah, and it was a joint base with Lawrence.
So we got 2 tonight.
So I got to see, like running his calendar was terrible. So it's kind of like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Let me see what I can do. It's easy to jump right back
I don't
into
I'll just put it beside.
cybersecurity stuff.
Oh, okay.
A lot of
Yeah,
guys
he'll be
I work
absent,
with,
then I'll put it on the
they're
VCC.
counties,
A lot of my friends West Coast. I just did that.
my neighbors, and they
Once they give me the info, then I'll order it. It's newer. I think they're gonna actually talk about it on the agenda too. Because I think there's questions about that before.
No, that's probably not very helpful, Thomas.
No, let's have the last one.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I know most of the guys here.
I'll ask my
Just because
husband.
they've been close.
So we had two alternatives.
The military history classes, people will go, oh, you don't know him, and they'll say, I know that guy.
It's so bizarre. So we were at a wedding. We went to a wedding last week. 2 weeks ago. And it's my wife who is, she's at 36 years old. And then it's her nephew's daughter married this guy whose father served with one of my best friends. So we're sitting there chit-chatting. He goes, his Navy diver. I said, that's cool. I said, yeah. Well, I had seen her. Fish guy. I said, oh my God, I served with him. So we called him up on the phone. It's like, they had talked to each other.
Thank you, and I will get this one.
That's a small world.
No worries, thank you. Oh, look at you. Yeah. Up there.
So my brother is Air Force, he's in the Air Force, but he's on the special operations side, my husband is special operations. So now my husband and brother is and there's so many people that are like,
There
yeah,
you
I
go.
know Joe Keller, like, that's my brother. That's your brother? So they work with my brother, they know my brother.
Sure.
We all ended up in Germany, so that was the other thing, my transition lead. My husband, he now works for a company called Zscaler, they do like zero trust architecture and
Yes,
stuff.
sir, I was looking, it's up there somewhere. It was going around.
And so they were like, we have to go over to Germany. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I had
Of course, yeah. What a shame.
I know. Well, I guess I'll go with you.
I know.
And then we were over there, and my brother's stationed in Stuttgart because he works for software and special forces as a civilian now. And so we all got to link
It's
up.
501
Germany,
Dutch.
that's cool.
Mr. Taylor. Watch the cord under your knee.
Alrighty, thank you everyone for coming. Today is November 17th. We are here for our Charter Commission review. Time is 5:01. I apologize for being 1 minute delayed here. We're going to go ahead and get started with our invocation, and since Scotty is not here, Rhonda Jett has graciously stepped in to do that for us.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you in thankfulness of the day, and thank you for all that you've provided to us. Please be with us as we lead through in this meeting and pray for our nation, pray for our troops, pray for our first responders as we go through our next phase in life. In His precious name I pray, amen.
Thank you, Rhonda. All right, Kurt is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, used to doing that. So at one of our meetings that we go to after the pledge, it's like you could probably hear us all the way to Duval and Putnam. So that's why some of us that go to meeting at the same time, we yell after it. So forgive us. Or join us, more importantly.
Yes, yes. All right, remember to turn on your microphone.
Susan Callahan.
Tim Wynn.
Matthew Mitchell.
Sherry Warren.
Brandon Salter.
Kurt Musser.
Courtney.
Glenn Taylor.
And to recognize our alternates we have here today, Bill Engelbrecht and Joe Delgado. Thank you. All right, well, again, welcome. And let's go ahead and move into approval of minutes, our last meeting for this charter.
I move for approval of minutes.
I have a motion for approval. I have a second by Sherry. Any revisions to these minutes? Any further discussion? All right, please indicate approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Please indicate any objections by same. Minutes are approved. To educate us on some of our topics that we will be discussing today. Before I bring our first speaker up, let me just kind of set the stage for why I particularly selected these two subject matter experts. At our last meeting, we approved the items to these particular topics, and the goal was, for simplicity, to order them in basically in the order of our charter, right? So, however, we happen to have quite a few items that are for Article 2. So, in which, at a minimum, we're going to need 2 meetings to fully discuss everything that we have identified for Article 2. So, include from Article 1, Section 1.5, casino gambling. Brandon Salter had raised the topic of modernizing the language in that particular section. And when it comes time, I'll have him further describe or illustrate what he means by that. Next is Article 3. We have 2 topics here. 3.1, county constitutional officers. We were looking specifically at the residency requirement and seeing about potentially expanding on that. And then the next is recall. I believe you'll, correct me if I'm wrong, did you raise that as a topic?
Not recall, the residency.
Oh, the residency, okay,
Correct.
okay. So we'll discuss a little bit about recall. So those are kind of the precursors as to why I requested Mark Scrooby. His experience is over 30 years as our Clay County attorney. So he will be sharing, giving us some history about the charter, as well as the scope of this charter, what can be included in it, and what cannot or should not be included within the confines of a charter. And then we're also privileged to have our Supervisor of Elections, Chris Chambliss, to give us some history and some education concerning our constitutional officers. I don't think I know anyone better to do that for us tonight. So without further ado, before I jump in there, but any discussion on these particular speakers before I let them all come on up? Perfect. All right, well, I'm going to welcome up Mark Scrooby to go ahead and come on up and give us a historical overview of our Clay County Charter and help us to learn the scope of this particular document. Thank you very much, Mark. Oh, is that on?
Am I on? Okay, good. Okay. I assume you've been schooled on sunshine and public records, stuff like that. Am I right about that?
Not entirely. Well, I specifically haven't.
I think it would be a good idea to go over it.
Okay, well, I am, this has nothing to do with the history, but every one of you is subject to the Sunshine Law, which means that any discussions that you have with each other have to occur on the record in a meeting, in a properly noticed meeting. So if you go outside and you start chatting about something to do with the business of the Charter Commission, can't do that. And there are penalties and nasty things that can happen for doing that. Public records, all county documents that are not otherwise exempt, and there's a whole list of exemptions, but all of them are available to the public. The county and all the agents of the county that hold records, they hold them in trust for the public. So if anybody wants to see a record, they don't have to explain why. They don't even have to give their name. They don't have to pay, you can't send them away unless it's literally something that we'd have to research. It's an instantaneous requirement. And so people have to put down what they're doing and respond to those public records. And there are little snitches that go around the state trying to trap people to see if they can create a cause of action. And it's just kind of a nasty little business, but they've made a lot of money doing it because you have to pay their attorney's fees and damages. Any questions about that? So don't talk to each other outside of meeting. So the Constitution contemplates two forms of county government. One is charter and one is non-charter. And the difference between the two in a nutshell is that non-charter counties only have those powers that are, so you can go online and see the statutes. It's pretty well indexed. And the site that I would use, you can go to different sites, but the one that I would use is called Online Sunshine. Online Sunshine. There's several links there. I encourage you to take a look at that just so you can see the scope of what a non-charter county is generally authorized to do. This is provided for in the Florida Constitution. Article 8 is the local government article of the Constitution about counties and the two types of government. Prior to the Constitution, we're under the new Constitution, which was adopted in 1968. And prior to that, it was 18-something. There were charter counties, but they were provided for by special provision in the Constitution. So like the consolidated government of the city of Jacksonville was provided for there, and it's held over kind of as a footnote. Miami-Dade, charter county. Hillsborough was a charter county under the Constitution, separately under the Constitution. So a charter county, different from a non-charter county, has all powers not specifically denied by general or special law. So it's a home rule situation. If it's something that is otherwise legal and it hasn't been preempted by the legislature somehow, that's within the bounds of what a charter county can be authorized to undertake. Okay, so it's kind of a powerful thing. And I'll give you my thoughts about it when I'm wrapping up here. But the charter for Clay County, last time I checked, are there 19, Courtney? Are there more? There's 20 now? Okay, 20 charters. And of the 67 counties in the state. Now remember, 2 of them are, one's consolidated, one is Miami-Dade, which is already in the Constitution. So there are 18 other charter counties. So Clay didn't have one forever and ever until 1982. There was a grand jury that was convened to investigate county government. There were some issues that That's one of the things that a grand jury can do beyond considering indictments of criminal matters, but they can also do investigations of government, state government, local government, and that's what they were doing. They were looking at management of funds. And at the end of that, the grand jury came back with a report that recommended that the county consider a charter form of government. So that kind of just sat there for a while. And I guess there was some, some backroom kind of pushing and shoving. And eventually they appointed like a blue ribbon committee, a government study commission. They went out and came back and said, yes, we need to do that. So they appointed an initial charter commission, and you can find that in chapter 125 of the Florida statutes. I don't remember which article, or which part, but it's in there. And it's easy to find. So they appointed a charter commission and came up with a charter, which I'll call a starter charter, because it didn't change anything. It added a provision that said that the commissioners could not interfere with the employees under the manager. Prior to that, we were a county administrative form of government, which was also in 125 as a form of government. They had an ordinance that created the county administrator's position, and the administrator had all the employees reporting to him or her. So when they went to charter, there's 3 different types of charter governments, and one of them is county manager. Another one's county administrator, and another one I think is a mayor. But they chose county manager for them. Didn't really change things dramatically. All of the commissioners were elected the very same way in a single member context at large. So everybody voted. You just had to reside, everybody had to reside in one commission district. The county was divided into 5 districts. So everybody got to vote. The constitutional officers were just the same as they were as a non-charter county, and the constitutional officers are supervisor, clerk of the court, sheriff, property appraiser, tax collector. So they're elected just the same. So that's how things proceeded for quite some time. The real benefit of a charter government, in my opinion, is that you have access to, that the local government has access to the taxation powers of a municipality. Supreme Court decided that just like a municipality has its charter, so a county that has charter counties could levy taxes that only municipalities could levy. And as it turns out, there's only one of those that I know of now. There used to be 2. There was a communications tax, which the legislature eventually preempted, and then the utility tax. So Clay County does have a utility tax. It's not the full authorization under the law, but they do have one. And as it turns out, they need it. They really need that tax because it supports the employees of the county government. And I'm all about the employees. I think the employees are the heart of the service. And I mean, it's a service business. And the service is delivered by the county employees. I don't know how many are there now. There are 600, something like that. 800 now? Well, I've been gone for 9 years, so all right, so 900 or 800. And a lot of those are fire rescue force, During the course of this charter, provisions of the charter that allow people to petition for an amendment to the charter. And those are pretty onerous, but they accomplished a number of them. One was to make the commissioners a single-member district, meaning that they have to reside in their district, number one, which was always the case. But number two, only the people that are in that district, that reside in that district, are allowed to vote for them. So nowadays, you can only vote, if you live in the county, you can only vote for one commissioner every 4 years, if that commissioner is even on the ballot. Another one that happened at the same time was to, let's see, the single-member district, term limits. In my view, it's a shame that it happened that way. In my view, and I guess I've had the long view because I operated under non-charter for years and then under charter government. I think it takes a commissioner probably 4 years just to learn the budget. I don't know if you've seen the budget. It's about that thick. And it's basically a line iteming of proposed expenses. And so when you're spending money, you have to make sure that it's coming out of the proper account that was set aside for that purpose. So I think it takes them that much time because a lot of funds that the county receives are restricted, sales taxes, okay? And people say, oh my gosh, the county has sales taxes. Well, they can't use that for operating expenses. They can only use it for capital, for example, okay? Now the utility tax is a general fund item. You don't have to, you're not restricted in what you can spend that on as long as it's for a public purpose. But I think it takes probably a good portion, if not all of that 4 years to learn that. And also just to learn the procedures that are involved and to kind of stitch things together in your mind about how things work. Because it took me that long. And then I think the second term, commissioners are just learning statescraft. And that's important, learning how to be influential and to get things done. And then it's over. And because it's single member, and this is again just my opinion, may not reflect anybody else's notions, but I think that you only have 8 years to get whatever you want done. And it doesn't encourage, to me, a look over the horizon. You want to get things done in your district, which is where you were elected, only then and only there, and get them done. But looking as, you know, where you're elected by everyone and being able to see it have failed to look over the horizon, but I think it doesn't help to have that mechanism. And then they established the cap on salaries. And I think that for a non-charter county, there's a statute, I think it's 186, that governs the compensation of all the constitutionals and the county commissioners. No idea what it would be, it may be 80 plus, 90, yeah, 90. And I think it's earned. I've, 30 years of watching what they do. And you want to compensate them properly because take away from your business or your family, and there's just really no compensation for it to speak of, third, maybe. And I think that was done districts. I think that group was interested in trying to create more turnover on the county commission. But on top of that, then they put that cap on the salaries. That has been on the ballot 2 or 3 times. You're not going to get anything done in terms of amending the charter if you don't have somebody somehow to advocate for it. When it just sits there on the ballot, it doesn't sell itself at all. So if you have a that will advocate for it and put some money behind it, it ain't going to happen. That's my opinion. So that's the history of the charter in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it than that. One of the Charter Review Commission's proposed amendment that was a good one, and that was to the custodian of funds, preparing the budget, and being basically the secretary for the board. But the last Constitutional Revision Commission abolished that. I think that had severed powers. And now the Constitution says you can't do anything to affect a constitutional officer. Used to be able to abolish their role. That's not such a bad thing. But the clerk has really 4 distinct functions. The clerk is the recorder for public record documents, mortgages, deeds, easements, all that kind of stuff. Is the clerk of the court, manages the dockets and filing, that sort of thing. Is the custodian of funds, and is the auditor. The audit function is kind of unique. It's not like an external audit that you would hire a CPA to come in and go through your books and write you up a report as to your compliance. The auditor is really a pre-auditor. And what they do as a pre-audit is whenever a purchase order is sent over from the county, they look to see, A, is it appropriated in the budget and unencumbered? In other words, it's not been already tied up in some other purchase order, so they look to make sure it's been properly appropriated, because you can't spend money that isn't properly appropriated. They look to make sure that the procurement rules, to the extent that they applied, that those rules were followed. And then they also make sure that a public purpose was served. And that's subjective. Sometimes you kind of have to argue about it, but those are the 3 roles that the clerk undertakes. I'll just kind of close with the budget business. So the clerk is the budget officer now. And I'm not sure that you can't pull that back. It used to be in 129 that you could create, Courtney, do you know whether you can, by resolution, pull the budget back over here? I can't remember. It's in 129, it was. So every constitutional officer submits a budget during the budget season, which is beginning at the end of May, I think is the end of May, something like that. 2 of them, one of them is a fee officer, that's the tax collector, but still must submit a budget to the budget officer, and that's the clerk. The clerk is also semi-fee officer, collects fees in functioning as clerk of the court and as the recording officer. But then the county functions, that's secretary for the board based. So when the constitutionalists submit their budgets, that then comes to the county, and the county has to look at it and say, okay, what do we need to do? And estimates are made of revenue, all the revenue that is expected to come in the next year. which is a tedious job because they come in from different sources. County Commission, the manager puts together a budget for the county, and really the county comes in last place because typically the constitutionals, they need what they ask for. And so for the most part, they're pretty, in my experience, pretty practical. A large portion of it goes to public safety, the sheriff's office. But after usually the new revenue, and there's always going to be, well, not always, but typically there's an upslope, if you will. The county revenues grow over time. Now there are dips and valleys, but the trend is upward. And those monies usually is not to increase the millage rate. And actually there are rules about if you do exceed your millage rate, you got to jump through several hoops to do that. So that's why I think you need a charter, because of the utility and the mischief that it can cause. I'd rather not see it, but we need it. So I'm not here to. So that's kind of the hierarchy of how things get funded here. I have an old primer. This is from 2013, and I asked my former assistant to print it out, and I'll leave it in, sunshine, and it was a primer. So I'll leave it here if you want to pick up a copy and look at what and realize that it's out of date.
Yes, thank you.
Any
Thank you
questions?
very much. I do have a follow-up question, and I appreciate all of the backstory. I think that really gives us, it helps to illustrate the history of why we're here. How did we, looking at the table of contents, we have 4 articles. Article 1 is the creation, powers, and ordinances of home rule charter government. Article 2, organization of county government. We have the legislative branch, the executive branch there. Article 3 is the elected county constitutional offices. And then Article 4 is the Home Rule Charter transition amendments. With our discussion of items, and we have a list of topics that we've pulled from the air and pulled from our community, folks within the community that have raised some ideas for us to discuss up here. However, could you educate us on what is within the proper scope within this charter, scope of charter?
Well, I think a charter, like a constitution, is what I would call a foundational document, okay? And what doesn't belong in it is strictly legislative stuff. There are ways to propose ordinances that are provided in and that was managed through an ordinance, and eventually it was presented as an ordinance. The county commission held a public hearing, decided not to adopt the ordinance, following which it was then put on the ballot and approved. So they didn't have to take any. But I don't think a charter should have essentially legislative items in it, okay? There's business pertinent to what a foundational document should have in it. I think that business that pertains to land use and zoning, there are temptations. We see that around the state, efforts to invade that area because many people think, okay, we've had enough growth. To put information or putting restrictions in your foundational document about land use, it's heavily regulated already. And I think it would create potential conflicts if there were rules that somehow deprive someone of property rights. And that's a big item of discussion all by itself. So Those would be the two things that I'd be very wary of. I think where you see is what should be there, minus the gambling stuff. Does that answer
That
your
does
question?
help, and actually, and as soon as I'm done with this, I don't mean to hog the floor. But for the sake of, since you're here and taking advantage of your 30 years of experience, and, I just need to, like, that's a exemplary career. I'd like to just walk through the topics that we as a commission have identified and have approved for discussion. Now, this is before you're telling us or recommending to us what is within and maybe without the scope. So these are the items that fell outside of fitting within one of those 4 articles. And if I could just raise them to you and ask you, based on what you just shared with us, whether it's a policy or legislative topics as being maybe not within the scope, what is your opinion on these particular items? And again, these are the items that you all shared. So marijuana dispensaries. I would say it's a policy and maybe legislation. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
I don't want to speak for you.
It's land use. It's
Okay.
land use. Now, if you're talking about regulating their operational side, I think that's pretty much preempted, I would assume. I have not looked at that stuff. That's what Courtney does. She looks at that stuff, but I think that that's probably pretty much preempted.
And it still sits in the legislative side of it, policy legislative.
Well, yeah, the land use would be out. The operation, the expertise they must have, that kind of stuff, I think that's all preempted.
Okay, preempted in terms of state.
But state law,
statute,
yes.
state law, okay. Public roads funding. Let's say if we have dirt roads out there, coming up with a creative idea to fund them.
I don't see that as, it's difficult. Maybe I should come back and talk about that. It's very difficult to do that. To me, if you're on a dirt road, I was on a paved road in a subdivision, let's say, paid for it. Whether they, that was part of the price of the lot. The home was built, you bought the home, it's all embedded in that. So you paid for that road. If the county were to go around trying to pave every road, how many miles, 200 miles, something like that? It's just not practical. Is an MSBU, a Municipal Service Benefit Unit, which can be created by ordinance, and you levy an assessment, which an MSBU is for special assessments. And you levy assessments to finance the cost of building the road, but you have to have enough density so that people can afford it. Because the cost of paving a road has gone crazy. I mean, it ain't to practically impose that burden on the residents. And it's, what is that neighborhood? Blue Jay. And there was density there. But it wasn't done the way I would have liked it to have been done. I kind of think we backed into it. Yeah. Whereas you're supposed to put the numbers together up front and then divide by the number of payers. But no, I don't think it's a proper place. It's just too complicated. I think it's more policy and.
At a commissioner level or?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's also a policy and guidance through your department with the county. And then you're getting into the weeds of county roads, private roads, state roads. I mean, there's a lot more to it than just paving a road. And then we're going into, again, land use. Then we're going back into legislation and policy and how that fits into the government guidance of the county. So I think it's way more into it than just let's pave a road and raise some money to pave a road.
Can I ask a question? So there's some counties that actually put it to the or the voters to, I forgot the terminology, to set money aside to be only used for the roads.
Mhm.
Could be a 10-year plan where
Yeah.
the voters vote on it, and that money can only be used for, say, paving the roads. Well, I mean, have you heard other counties doing that?
No, I haven't, but again, I don't know what the origin of that movement was. Was it by petition, or was it a charter commission, or was it the commissioners themselves? The commissioners can propose amendments to the charter as well. But again, you're still going to be stuck with what roads are going to be done. And you can't put that on the ballot, you know. So if you, as it is, if you look at the budget, and I encourage you to do that, you'll see that there are funds set aside specifically for road building. That's reality. So I don't know that you're accomplishing much if you put something in your charter that says there's going to be a long-term plan and you have to set aside this much money each year. So looking back at it, if I were faced with that, I wouldn't even know how to administer that. That's just me, though. And maybe there's, you know, if you investigate it more, maybe they have a better, a more sophisticated approach than something I could imagine.
They did. I just heard from Lake City, and since you know a lot of the history, and not a lot of people can explain this to me. I remember on the ballot, when you talked about gambling, that the voters voted it down, and now we have a poker room. So do you know how that
No,
came
the
about?
public voted in favor of the charter amendment that dealt with gambling, that basically said, how does it say? It's been amended a couple of times. It basically said that that happened before this. Poker room happened before this happened, okay? And it was in response to the poker room, okay? But that all happened in Orange Park, and it was a 3-2 decision in Orange Park to allow it to take place. But it's a reservation of power by the electorate. The citizens of the county reserve to themselves the power to approve or disapprove casino gambling of any nature within the boundaries of the county. And there's more to it, but that's the purpose of that. It wasn't to authorize it. So it was approved.
Thank you. And
Chair,
follow-up.
to the road discussion that Tim brought up, I know that within the county budget, they do have a 10, 15, 20-year plan of some infrastructure roads and how that's mapped out. Now, it's forever changing because some roads get way worse than they had anticipated. The usage gets higher. All those factors roll into that. So there actually is a rollout plan and what that looks like. And then when you add in new developments, that's also taken into account of that plan. So that is part of the budget already.
That's right, Ms. Jett. The county 4 or 5 years ago, floated a bond issue pledging sales tax revenues and used that money to undertake some the arteries, the principal arteries of the county, not the state roads. The state roads, the state takes care of those 21 and 16 and 17 essentially, and 100. But you know, those are the principal arteries where there's a lot more population, and so you see, that's really something that the county commission has to brainstorm. And they have other ways to fund it. They created very complex, so
okay.
enough to say that it doesn't belong to me in the charter in any way. So because all those pieces are moving at any one time, it's just not practical to me to try to address that in a charter form of government.
Understood.
ma'am.
Thank you. I just have a few more to get your personal opinion on them. And if anyone else here, if you have comments as I go through this list, I would just ask that you please write them down, and then I would welcome discussion on that when we come up to CRC comments, which will be at the end, and we'll have time to fully, for some sake of time. So, Mr. Scrooby here, green space requirements was another topic that was raised. It's kind of generally speaking.
Has anybody ever seen this animal in a charter?
No, I have not. So
It's
again,
a lovely idea, but again, like the city of Jacksonville,
yeah,
he was very instrumental in creating a huge expansion of green space in Jacksonville. And again, that really operates at the local government level. It would be nice to advance that as much as you can, but it's a funding issue. So in my time, there were some efforts to do that. A number of pieces of property were acquired: Knight's Boat Ramp, Chawenois, the old WAPE property that's up on Fleming Island. Those were pretty big pieces, and those are in perpetuity set aside for the public. But the policy of the county now is that when you create new residential growth, you have to set aside green space per comp plan and zoning. You already have to do that. But again, and then you also have a lot of it that's bound up in regulation, water management district regulation that just can't be developed anyway. So
okay.
what's my opinion about it? I don't really have one, other than I don't know how you would force that because of the money issue.
Understood. And it sounds like, so we have infrastructure requirements, and I think that was kind of taking a proactive look to various approaches to development and wanting to maybe have a hand in that to perhaps guide it. And main entrance enhancement.
You could have something that just says the county commission is encouraged to create, but not make it mandatory. It's just some. Would that create problems for you, Courtney? If there was something that was aspirational? Yeah. So, I mean, I suppose you could do something that that we would encourage the commission, but not bind the commission to create more green space.
Okay. Last two here real quick. Main entrance enhancement into the county. Is that a kind of just beautifying, I think, the entrance?
I know what you're talking about.
Like
Green Cove has their little
little
station up there that says "Welcome to Green Cove." Policy.
Okay.
Policy.
And last but not least, additional assistance for commissioners was also a topic that was raised.
In other words, providing each one with a
Maybe not
designated.
each one. There was no set number. It was just the idea to discuss assistance.
I'd ask them. The business of it is 9 years past me, and I know how busy they get. To have essentially a legislative aid, I think there's some merit to that, but I would ask them.
Okay. Is that, though, a charter within the charter, or is it more of an administrative
I think it's
issue?
more administrative because, again, all the employees work for the manager.
Right.
Okay, every one of those employees that are under the county commission, they all work for the manager. So that even those people would work for the manager.
Okay, understood. All right, those are all of the other items that I would like to discuss. With regards to his, have any questions for Mark?
I don't know that I have a question, but I did want to follow up on, that was brought up about the comp controller, about pulling it back, and I don't believe that you can the way that it was written and passed. So that answers that. You can't redo, that's etch-a-sketch, you can't shake on that one.
It was actually a good measure that the Charter Review Commission, because it got the county commission more deeply involved in how the budget works, and now it's a little more removed. It's maybe a little more opaque.
So that was the next thing, and they don't prepare them. It's a segregation of duties that away post kind of action. So I just wanted to clear that up for you guys if you hadn't.
You
from
talking
my
about the
perspective-
auditor?
The
county
clerk of court-
auditor?
The clerk of court.
Yeah, the
co-
clerk
controller.
functions.
This is separate from the auditor.
Okay.
The clerk of court was what was brought up. And then they are actually paid through, I don't remember the actual name of it, but I look at it as like a state court system actually pays and the county does that. So that's kind of how that works out.
Does the county not pay for the county functions? County, the clerk is the recorder for the county, does the secretarial work essentially, takes the minutes and handles the records.
That administrative side may come from the county, but the controller and clerk of court, that comes from the state system,
Oh,
not the county.
okay, that's news. Yeah. They're always changing
Just,
that.
yeah, just my 2 cents.
They're always changing that. But your constitutionals do a great job, I will say that. They do a great job, and you're lucky to have them.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
Is it your opinion that section 1.5 regarding the gambling?
It was ever going to be the window under which that might have some applicability never, it occurred to me that it probably would never happen, because the legislature would preempt anything, no matter what, they would preempt if they said you could have casino gambling. They're not going to let a local government interfere with that. So it was just lipstick on a pig, if you ask me.
All right, oh, sorry, Kurt Messer has a question.
Actually, I have a couple. Correct me if I'm wrong, and the commission ended up putting it on the ballot to be voted on.
There's a provision in the charter.
So my question is this commission gets together once every 4 years to decide what goes on.
That's too
the ballot.
often.
I'm sorry?
That's too often. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, but my question is everything that we do, can't the county commissioners do as well? They
Yeah,
have the
well, they
authority.
can propose amendments.
Right.
They
So
can.
really, all we are is, we pick up what the county commissioners don't want to put on the
No,
ballot.
I don't think so. I think you have your own independent voice on this.
Okay, what I'm saying is that if there's something the Board of County Commissioners doesn't want to touch.
I don't
This
know.
commission can consider that as.
Yes, I
Okay.
understand what you're
Okay.
saying, and I'm kind of, and again, you might take one aside individually and talk to them about that. Is there something you can't touch, but we could? That's a
Right.
good
But the
question.
bottom line is everything that we do here, the Board of County Commissioners can do it as well.
That's right, and not only that, members of the public can organize a petition committee and propose stuff just like those term limits and the single-member district and the salaries. They can do that.
Okay.
So,
And I guess because you're presenting some historical information, when I did some research on the difference between county charters and non-county charters, of the 20 charter counties in the state of Florida, Clay County is the only one that created the requirement that there be a majority vote in a general election for salary adjustments. None of the other charter counties have that requirement. Does that go back with kind of a comment you made that the group who put the original charter together were a close-knit group of people who didn't want to see anything happen with the county commissioners with regards to salary expansion?
I don't know of other counties that have salary rules for county commissioners.
Well,
I don't
I
know.
do.
that-
I have a list in front of me, and Clay is the only one that says that even though it has a charter, it has in parentheses, it requires a majority vote from the general election. None of the others do.
Yeah.
And
This,
I was
don't
just
think it's been
wondering if
amended.
I was wondering if you had some historical.
Yeah,
if-
this this was a spiteful act by a group of people, in my opinion.
Okay, that's
It
all you
was
need to say.
spiteful to-
I think that's pretty clear.
To stick it in their eye because this group wanted something to happen, a policy decision to be made, and the county commissioners said, they actually did investigate whether this was a good idea and said, no, there's no warrant for doing this. And so this was all about creating an opportunity to change the county commission through single member, through term limits. But this salary thing was just to stick it in their eye. That's what it was. No question about it.
Question?
That was one of the things that stood out to me. It did seem odd that, that there was a specified salary. For
And it's
being
not
a,
indexed, you notice. So this thing went into effect 20 years ago.
yeah,
It's never been indexed.
right, for being a foundational document, I was surprised that they would go to that granularity to state what the salary is, not just an overall guidance on how the salary should be voted upon or decided upon, but that was one of the things that I was recommending that we take out, to make it more of a foundational
Boy,
document.
that would be great.
That could
They
live
need to
for
get
48
paid
years.
on a par with all the other constitutional or county commissioners around the state. They need to get paid like that because of the work they do.
Well,
And I
it
think it
also doesn't
attracts
account-
people who would otherwise not run, that they're going to be fairly compensated. So you have my reasons for that. But this was just a mean-spirited kind of a thing, and if you're going to change it, you got to get behind it somehow. You can't just put it on the ballot and expect it to go. It won't happen. Adopt a resolution in time for Chris to be able to get
Yeah,
it on the ballot and
we've been
for the county
advised.
commission to do their resolution. Okay, so you
Absolutely.
have
No,
that.
thank you,
Good.
though, for bringing that back to our remembrance. Any further questions for Mark?
Glenn?
All right, well, thank you so much. We
You're welcome.
definitely appreciate the time and expertise.
Thank you. I don't.
30
never really
years, I would,
felt expert about anything.
30 years, I think, gives you that title, expert. All right. Any further discussion before we bring on, as I'm looking at the agenda, residency requirements for our constitutional officers. Now, we also have properly noticed within this agenda the topic of recall under Article 3, which covers our elected constitutional officers. I don't believe I need a motion, but I would like to have a consensus. Is this commission agreeable to, and then I'll ask briefly. Are we okay with that? Okay, any objections?
Is he okay with it?
Well,
Yeah,
that's
is
my
he okay?
next question. That's my next question, but I just want to make sure the commission is okay with it, because then it wouldn't matter what he thought. Okay, great. I'm going to direct that question to Supervisor Chambliss in of that subject in the charter, and perhaps any discussion of state statute as it may pertain to that.
I will answer all of your questions to the best of my ability.
Understood, and we appreciate your flexibility there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to our Supervisor of Elections, Chris Chambliss. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so would you like me to speak on residency requirements first?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So first, I've been with the elections office for about 28 years, thank you, Mark. And I have been elected as supervisor of elections for 18 of those years as well. So I've seen a lot of charter review commissions and a lot of the discussions over the years. With regards to residency, currently in the 20 counties that are charter counties in the state of Florida, there are only 3 that have a residency requirement above state statute. Now, when I say state statute, I'm referring to, I believe it's 99.021, which is the oath of office, to where you're attesting to the fact that you are legally available to serve as an elected official in whatever those capacities are. With regards to constitutional officers, with the exception of the sheriff, and I'll go into that, constitutional officers, you must be a registered voter in the state of Florida and of the county to which you live. It goes on to say in those other constitutional officers that in that oath that you're also taking an oath that you are a registered voter within the county. Now, referring to the sheriff, going back to the peace officer days, a sheriff was covered a wide variety of areas in the state, traveling from area to area. So they do not have the same requirement. They have to be a registered voter in the state of Florida and registered to vote where they live. And that's it. So, of course, they do not have to be a registered voter of Clay County to run for Clay County Sheriff. Of course, most recently, this came up, and I put it in, there was a Division of Elections, State of Florida Division of Elections advisory opinion that was in reference to, if I might recall, it was Jefferson County Sheriff. And believe it or not, that was even a homegrown person, Brian Graham, who was at the time the campaign official for this individual who resided in Tallahassee, Leon County. And the governor appointed this individual to sheriff in Jefferson County, and the individual was asking the opinion in order to run for office and in order for me to complete that oath of office, to where I am taking an attestment that I live, because it's kind of a boilerplate document. I live in Jefferson County, and he said, I don't. Furthermore, he went on to say that, I plan to potentially move there, but as of now, I'm concerned about signing this legal document attesting to this oath, when in fact I really don't live in Jefferson County. And the opinion at the time was, well, good news. You don't need to, because going back to the original intent of that law, you do not. So as far as residency goes, all of your constitutional officers have to be a registered voter and a state of Florida registered voter. All, with the exception of the sheriff, have to reside within the county to which they're running. And so that's pretty much the question. Now, I believe another question, if I understood it correctly by the chair, was that there was a contemplation, should there be a length of term of residency? And to that answer, there's only 3 charter team to all be focusing on this 6-month period of time, with the exception of Duval County. And Duval County goes to explicitly state, they want to be special, 183 days. So if you do the math, that's 1 day more than a half a year, calendar year for that. That end.
Chris, is there also an Attorney General's legal opinion also about the sheriff having to live that requirement? There was also an Attorney General's opinion. I know you mentioned your
Yes, there is
supervisor.
an AGO opinion
Okay.
to that effect. That, of course, is one of the ones, and I included it in some correspondence. But yes, also in that as well.
and I do have a copy of that AG opinion. Anyone here
Any other questions on that topic?
with regards to residency? In your position, or in your discussions with your fellow colleagues throughout the state, to the extent you've had them, any discussion as to why 6 months was the term that people went with, or 183 days because maybe they had to be a little extra, Duval County? Any reason why it was that and maybe not a 3-year or a 5-year?
Well, I can only potentially, opine, maybe give you some of my thoughts, and these clearly are based on just my thoughts and have no basis for it. But I could tell you that I guess you want to have skin in the game for representing in a representative form of government. However, I'd pose this question. And in the back of your minds, if I could be so bold, I would always pose this question. What exactly am I trying to fix, and where is the break? And if you can't find the break, then I would argue that you don't need to put a fix in place. I think that Mr. Scrooby, who has now left me once again, said it very well. You have a foundational document, and I would be concerned if you feel the urge as a commission, okay, to make a change based on change's sake. I really think that you have to really have discernment as to what exactly. Now, if there's a glaring problem, then number one, you should have known it, and you do know it from the get-go, right? But if not, don't put a weight of success that's based on change. And that's the only advice I could give you on that. Again, I've been around the block. I have lived in Clay County just about all my life, except for my military and my college career, and that's the only advice. Any other questions with regards to that topic? I've got all night.
Just a comment. So, thank you, sir, for providing the insight. And I was the commission that suggested looking at this.
Mhm.
And, it was really from a standpoint of helping everyone understand where we are today.
Mhm.
And I really appreciate that because, understanding that all of your current constitutionals are under the requirement, obviously that's not broke, so there's no fix in there. So, but I just want to thank you for providing the insight.
I think in order, running for office is not for the faint at heart, okay? And I think if one who is going to invest themselves in their community, and by virtue of you being here, you know this, okay? By virtue of investing yourself into the community, you already have those relations. So why does, but that's my honest belief. Any other questions with regards to term? All right. Well, madam, if I may move on to your second topic that you asked me to research.
Thank you.
So streamline the recall process. Again, please, it's been a minute since I watched all of your discussions, and I do at home. Y'all look very good, by the way. But with regards to recalls, there's a Florida statute, 100.361. 100.36 municipalities and charter counties. Okay, so that is the reference that you would use. I want to tell you, in my history, there's only been approximately 50 recalls in the state of Florida. 50 recall processes in the state of Florida, of which only, okay, 4 individuals who were in the recall process ended up resigning their position, and therefore the recall was null and void at that point in time. 32 of the recalls did not go to a vote called in Florida's history, and that was Miami-Dade. All right. 0 constitutional officers have been recalled in the state of Florida. The recall process is very painful, and it should be, right? If you're going to take the part of recalling, reversing the people's choice, served at least 1/4 of their term. Okay? And then once an individual's recalled, they can't run for another elected office for a minimum of 2 years. Again, I just want to show you those are malfeasance, misfeasance, neglect of duty, dereliction of duty, drunkenness, I would assume, on the job, incompetence, permanent involving not just a felony, but involving moral turpitude. Okay, those are the 7 reasons. In my research, however, I'm not a lawyer. I would certainly look to Glenn for. It is the intent of the legislature that the recall procedure provided in this act shall be uniform statewide. Therefore, all municipal charter and special law provisions, remember, municipal charter, also 100.361, the state statute, are hereby repealed to the extent of this conflict. So, I believe that what I just read said that you can't make any changes with regards to the recall process that's outlined in this statute in our charter. Again, I'm not an attorney.
I would agree with that.
Okay. But I just wanted to, because I realize your time's important, and I realize you've got a lot of discussion, and kind of like Mr. Scrooby, and even that I've heard you say from time to time, we need to focus on what the charter does and not what it does not do. And that, again, that's more my opinion than anything else, because I've never had the blessing of being a part of the CRC. Although, one day, some 30 years from now when I retire, I plan to apply.
Just wait. The time's coming. Thank you very much for that education. Any questions for Supervisor Chambliss on either topic?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you. I always enjoy what you bring to the table, and it's always very intuitive and brings a lot to understanding the processes. So I appreciate you, Chris. And if you guys have ever been part of a recall, not a recount, it is go and watch. We got a season coming up next year. Hopefully we don't have that, but they run a stellar program over there. Congrats.
Well, thank you. You're too kind. I applaud y'all. You all, because taking the opportunity to really learn from the past is where you need to begin. As a matter of fact, I really think that the CRC should probably have a month of orientation before you begin your process deliberating. But I digress.
Before I release Supervisor Chambliss out, because I want to make sure that he has the freedom, and I know you already do that. You don't need me to tell you to either stay here or leave, because I recognize you have a very busy schedule. because we have some old business to get to before we get to our new business. Any additional questions, because he may not be here when we actually get to Article 3. Anything else? Alrighty. Supervisor Chambliss, again, thank you so much for your time. You have certainly given us a lot to chew on and a very solid foundation from which to work. Thank you.
I'm only a phone call away. Please make use of my time.
Thank you.
God bless y'all.
Alrighty, fantastic. Okay. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and moving into public comment. I'm going to go ahead and open it for public comment at this time. All right, seeing no one jolt to the bench here, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commission. Presentations, I don't think we have any additional presentations. Commission members, any additional presentations? Okay. All right, let's move on into Mike Sella and alternate Melissa Benez. Should be provided in your packets. Can I have a motion to accept resignation for Mike Sella and Melissa Benez?
Make a motion to accept Mike Sella and Melissa Benez's resignation.
Alrighty, I have a properly motion here. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a number of seconds. Any further discussion? Any objections to these requests for resignations? Purely for convenience on their sake. Hearing resignations accepted. Moving to number 2, it's our 2025/2026 Clay County Charter Review Commission updated roster. That should have also been provided in your packet. Okay, I see it here. Does anyone not have an updated roster? Okay, fantastic. I see we've all turned to it. I'll take a motion to accept this new roster.
To accept the updated roster.
All right,
Second.
I have a properly motioned to accept this updated roster, and I have a second. Any further discussion?
No.
All right, any objections? Hearing none, all in favor of the updated roster can designate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any objections likewise? Updated roster motion carries. We will accept the updated roster. All right, moving on to number 3 of old business, approval of CRC council agreement. I'm going to ask Courtney to come up here. Any discussion from you, Courtney, with regards to this agreement? I was not involved in that per your request.
Nope, it was the letter of agreement that was provided by Mr. Taylor, and it includes the provisions that are required under our purchasing policy, and it's just here for you to approve it.
Okay. Fantastic, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion to approve our CRC council agreement for Attorney Glenn Taylor.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement.
I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion that has been properly seconded. Any further discussion? Any objections to this agreement? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any objections indicate likewise. Motion carries. We have accepted our council agreement for Mr. Taylor. Thank you so much. Glad to have you on board.
Thank you very much, Council.
All right, moving on to number 4, charter topic suggestions. You see them in the old minutes. I do have a list that I will, after this meeting, email to everyone. They're really, like I told you everyone, they are broken up by article, and then everything else that did not fall within those clearly defined articles I've listed under other items, and you all heard me have that conversation with Mr. Skirby on those. So
I did have a question, so I'm just so I'm clear, we're making a motion to approve all of these other items on here as well, or to discuss? Because, I mean, I think it's been clear that a lot of these that we've suggested are not even in our purview. So in my opinion, I'm not comfortable moving forward, making approval of these, motions at all.
No, absolutely, and I thank you for bringing that up. I had intended to just move that to our CRC comments at the end, but I think this is a great opportunity, good timing for us to have the discussion right now, in fact. So, and yes, we would be approving officially the topic suggestions. So, as we've heard from Mark Scorby, the other items, marijuana dispensaries, public roads funding, these green space requirements, additional assistance for commissioners, infrastructure requirements, and then main entrance enhancement into county, again, which was land use / policy. Based on his opinion, he believed those were outside of the charter, the scope of the charter. Now, we do have, I think, the ability and the freedom to have those discussions if we wanted to. However, to be respectful of everyone's time and actually getting something done here that can be moved. Do we want to take the time to actually have discussions on those items, which, based on, again, his discussions, will not or cannot be included in the charter?
If I may, I just want to be clear from my understanding of how this process goes. We can always bring this up for new discussion. So if there's something else that someone thinks about on the commission, we can always bring that back up. So in my opinion, I think we make a motion to just discuss what we're already discussing right now and then move forward from there from our next meeting, if that makes sense.
So you want to make a motion?
No, I don't want, I'm bringing it for discussion because that's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Discussion. So my opinion is that we do not discuss what these other items here on our agenda that we have in front of us, and that we focus solely on the article sections above the other items is where I'm going.
Okay, understood.
I have a question before we move further as far as we're discussing. You know, we're looking at residency requirements, but as explained, that's already dictated by Florida statute, your constitution, and an attorney general's opinion, as well as the supervisor of elections collectively in the state of Florida's opinion as well. So that would be one that I want to also look at removing. And I know we had a discussion about charters that are, and I don't see where that would be on here as well. So maybe we look at this and massage it a little bit more so we can stay focused on the topics, but I want to make sure that even if we do vote on this, that we do have the freedom moving forward, we see something that is valid and we have a discussion to bring to that we have that ability. I think first it would be apropos to look at this, what we have here, and go, okay, these need to be taken off after the history lessons.
See, I believe, based on my review, it's covered within Article 4. The residency, I would ask that we hold discussion, because that is under new business, so I don't want to go too far into discussion on that topic at this time. So potentially, the thought is maybe to motion to agree to discuss moving forward only the items that are clearly within the confines of the articles, as Mr. Mitchell has raised. I think that's an excellent point. To postpone discussion, we'd like to have a discussion, because again, we do have the freedom to do that. Because like I said, I'd like to have subject matter experts to educate us on topics that could potentially be discussed or fit within the article, but I don't want to jury rig it or try to force something, right? So we can just have a motion to only discuss the topics that fall within the articles, postpone items that fall outside that scope.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to postpone the items that fall outside of our scope, and then to discuss the items that do fall within our scope, and then also including that, keeping it open to new discussion as we move forward throughout the months.
right, I have a motion on the floor. Can I have a second?
I second that.
Okay, I have a motion that's been properly second. Any further discussion? Susan?
I do want to put on the record that Mr. Scrooby did not say no to the green space. So I would like to keep that on the back burner.
Understood. And the way the motion was made, that was merely postponed,
Right.
but we do have the freedom
Right.
to call it up
Correct.
if need be.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And go ahead.
For clarification of our minutes, can you please specifically identify which ones you are considering not to be included versus included? And I forgot what the third category was. But just what goes into each category?
Absolutely. So, and I'm using the list that you sent me, Courtney. And like I said, I'm going to provide this list to everyone now that it's in the sunshine. Oh, you do have, is it? It is in the minutes. Okay. Okay, great. Well, this one just, it organizes it by article. Okay. Joe, hold on.
Just a question or clarification. Can we just, when we're doing this amendment, categorize it maybe out of scope and then with scope, and then identify what falls categories, just to make sure for future record, we know as a body what was identified as out of scope.
Sure.
Chair, if I may, the motion has already been approved. We've already made the motion, and then we've already made the second to the motion. We just need the point of clarification for the minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely, and I'm going to get to that and to Courtney's request for clarification. So understanding that there is a motion, it has been seconded, we were in further discussion on that particular motion. Any additional discussion? Any objections to this motion on the floor? Looking around the room, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those in favor clearly indicate by saying the same. Motion carries. Okay, so for point of clarification to Joe and Courtney's request, here are the topics by article that fall within the charter. Article 1, Section 1.5, casino gambling, that was requested by Mr. Salter for potentially modernizing the language. Article 2, which covers organization of county government, that was Section 2.2A, County Commission. The subparts to that, number of districts and single-member districts versus countywide. Section 2.2C, salaries and other compensation. Section 2.2I, initiative, those are the county initiative. Section 2.3D, as in Delta, commission auditor. Moving to Article 3, elected county constitutional offices. Section 3.1, residency requirement. Section 3.2, recall. Article 4, home rule charter transition, amendments, review, severance, effective date. The only one in there that I see is Section 4.2B, amendments and revisions by Charter Review Commission, which includes the CRC frequency, to Ms. Jett's point, okay? So those were all of the topics included in our past minutes. The other items that fall without the scope of the charter are as follows. Marijuana dispensaries, public roads funding, green space requirements, additional assistance for commissioners, commission procedures, and I'll have to get more clarity on that because we do have a number of commission procedures already being discussed, so I'll take that as a task. Approaches to development, and then main entrance enhancement into the county. Those are all the items outside the scope based on Mr. Scorby's guidance. Any questions? Bill?
Road enhancements. I know that there's road.
Hold on one second. Road enhancements. Do you mean the public roads funding? I'm sorry.
Is it on? Okay.
I just want to get some clarification on the road.
Public roads funding?
Yes,
Okay.
because my point of the last meeting is I know that there are state roads that we have and the FDOT, they have to pay for those things. However, any new developments that come off of one of our county roads, for example, I'm gonna use Henley Road because I was just driving down that road. If there is more home projects that are coming into play, then the roads, we're building all these residential areas, and then we're coming back in and putting in the roads. I mean, if you look at years ago with Brandonfield Road, I mean, now that's a federal or state thing, but
Understood.
that's a great example.
So if I could just kind of direct you, what is your point of clarification? What is the request to the
My
commission?
request is that the county commissioner, or that we change in our charter, that we have something where the county commissioner, or we have in our charter basically that any kind of new developments that are coming into play, that the roads are built first. So I'm not sure where that falls, if it's under the county commissioner, or if they make a suggestion to the roads committee or something along those lines here, but something has to be done. It's got to be limited, because if you driving down these roads, traffic, and it's because of development that's coming in.
On that, I'm going to keep that within the public roads funding. Like I said, we have postponed that. We have not killed it off, for a lack of a better term, so it does remain on the topics of potential discussion, okay?
Chair,
Appreciate you for raising that.
If I may, just a clarification on the motion that was put forth. Everything was postponed, so it doesn't mean that it's gone forever, right? And also additional, I think it's for me, rather than just a long list that we may not even get to, okay? So I think it's important that we can always bring that up if we do move forward and we move faster than we anticipate going through all these that we've already just put forth. So that was the purpose of the motion that I put forth, was not to get rid of it, but just to have a sole focus and know and mission on what we're doing on this charter.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what was achieved through that mission. And no, I'm not removing any of those other items without bringing it first to this commission for discussion if they would like to, or a motion to remove it from our discussion topics. But thank you for that clarification. Okay. Now we are all set with old business, so let's go ahead and move into our new business, starting with our first topic here is Article 1, Section 1.5, Casino Gambling. Mr. Salter, you brought this up as a topic for discussion, and based on my discussions with our attorney, he has done some extensive research on this. But because you raised it, I'm going to leave it to you to start off the discussion. If you'd like for him to kind of go over his research, I'm going to leave that to you, so please.
Yeah, if we want to begin with the research first, that's fine, because we had a little bit of a discussion prior to, and it may be something that, it's something that I believe certainly falls within the purview, but also is, in my belief, preempted by state law already, and so would hopefully save and be respectful of everyone's time here tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Taylor, I know you've done an extensive amount of research. Would you mind educating us on the research that you've done and maybe the opinions that you've made based on that research?
Yes, madam, I'd be happy to. So it's really a very broad topic, and so I've looked at the tribal compact that was passed in 2021, which is an extensive document that there was a tremendous amount of lobbying involved, as you can imagine, as well as state statutes that were enacted at the same time, and reviewed the House bill analysis of that, as well as the Senate bill analysis. And I've talked, directly or indirectly with some of our Senator Bradley, Representative Stapp, and some other attorneys who were involved in this process back at the time that it was passed in 2021. It's a great suggestion. I would suggest to the commission that it's really a very large endeavor. And, the budget for me, I mean, if you want to help with my children's education, we could expand that. But the budget is $6,500 for the whole commission's projects through the amendments. So that, and given the scope of the things we have, I would say it's beyond really the scope of what we're intending to try to accomplish here.
And Mr. Salter, you mentioned something about preemption. I also took a quick gander through the compact, through the bill analysis as well. There's a lot of legislation that went into that, and a lot of toes that I would be very wary of stepping on. With regards to your request, as I remember it, to modernize that language. And I certainly don't want to put the county or the commissioners in any type of hot water where they would need to try to pedal out of. But again, it's your topic, and I want to allow you the room to expand on your request to modernize it, or let us know where you'd like to take this.
Sure, yeah. In lieu of that and the further extensive research and most that I've done, I would like to actually retract it from the list of discussion because, again, I think that the entire thing was preempted, and my entire argument was essentially to eliminate it in the first place because it's preempted by state law based on my research. So, yeah, to save everyone's time, I would like to retract it at this time.
Okay, then I will go ahead and accept a motion. If you could make a motion to remove that
Sure, I'd like
from
to.
discussion.
Yeah, sure. I'd like to make a motion to remove 1.5 as a topic of discussion.
I second.
All right, I have a motion that's been properly seconded. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those, any objections indicate by saying same. Motion carries. We'll remove section 1.5 from discussion. Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for your research on that, and thank you, Mr. Salter, for your review as well. Moving on to Article 3, Elected County Constitutional Officers. We do have two sections here to review. Let's start with the first one, Section 3.1, Elected County Constitutional Officers. This has to do with residency requirements. Now, if I recall, there is no term of residency, however. Now, Mr. Chambliss mentioned there's only 183 days, and the other 2 are 6 months. So I'm going to open it up to discussion for what would we like to consider.
And it's already guided by the Florida statute and our constitutional article, and I can give you the guys that article number 5678, section 1D, as well as an attorney general's legal opinion. It's one of those things that, what's the outcome that we're wanting? You know, the way that it's written now, they have to be in the county except for one constitutional within the county by the time they take office. That's how it's written. Again, do we want to muddy the waters, and what's the purpose of muddying the waters?
I agree with that. Any additional comment? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Same here. I will agree. At this point, certainly, in light of the education that we got here tonight, I would like to make a motion to remove it from discussion moving forward.
I second.
Do I have a motion? It's been properly seconded. Any discussion? I did see Mr. Salter. Is there further discussion on red?
Aye.
All those opposed indicate. All right, moving on to section 3.2, recall. Now, before I open it up, hold on just one moment here. Let me turn to that in my little. I'd like to just go ahead and read what is in our charter, just so we have a good place to start with, in addition to the education that we received by Supervisor Chambliss. So it reads 3.2, each of the constitutional offices described in section 3.1 of this article shall be subject to recall in the same manner, under the same procedures, and for the same grounds as are provided by general law for the members of the Board of County Commissioners. Period. So that is what it states in there. And then the general law, again, that Supervisor Chambliss mentioned was this 100.361. And I tell you, it's extensive. It's like 7-8 pages long, and it goes through. It's an amazing procedure to even initiate the recall, let alone work through one. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for discussion and ask, what does this commission like to do?
I think that, again, back to the education that we got tonight and the history lesson, which was wonderful, the procedure's in place. I'm asking, to what end are we putting this on here? It is a very time-consuming issue. I believe it would really cost us quite a bit of cha-ching. Adore you, however. And I'd like to make a motion to pull it.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
A second. I second the motion.
I have multiple seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, aye. Okay, Ms. Mitchell, aye. All those that object to it indicate by saying same. Hearing none, motion carries. We'll go ahead and remove Section 3.2 recall from further discussion on this commission. All right, so that means Article 2 items, just kind of looking ahead. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to save that for CRC comments. So I'm going to put a pin in that for just a minute. It is now time for public comment. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to public comment. Anyone out there like to step up to the plate?
Come on, Helena.
Hello, my name is Helena Cormier. Thank you again for everything that y'all are doing. I know one of the things that I heard was about the assistance, for our commissioners, but I hope that when the discussion does come about their pay and being able to get that worked out, that we can come up with something. And I appreciated the history lesson that we got. And that's terrible that people would have a spiteful reason for putting it in there. So thank you again.
Thank you, Helena. Appreciate that. Any additional comments from the public? Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to the commission. All right, it is now time for CRC member comments. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. My only request, we don't have to raise hands. I just would ask that if there is someone talking that you would, for those who would like to make a comment, please wait until the other person has completely finished speaking out of courtesy. Thank you. Any comments?
Yeah, I have one.
Sure.
Mr. Scrooby, and unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to ask him, because in my doing the research between the difference between charter and non-charter counties, and he mentioned the fact that charter counties can do something unique that non-charter counties can't, and that's that county charters can provide a municipal utility tax levied in unincorporated areas. And I really should have asked him, is that something that's a legislative item or a policy item, or is it something that a charter commission should consider? I mean, it's one thing to put something like that on the ballot for Clay County voters to consider whether to, he said that the county has one. I don't know if anyone else is curious to know exactly what that is and whether that's something that this charter commission should consider.
Well, since we have not foreclosed on the possibility of having time to raise additional items that are, not covered on our list that we approved. So I would recommend making a note of that as a potential topic. When we have exhausted our review of those topics that are within the charter and we still have time, let's go ahead.
Taxes as a possible agenda item in the future if we have sufficient time to do that.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I second that.
I have a motion that has been properly seconded. Any further discussion?
is a motion needed for that? I'm not sure we need a motion at this time for, I just think it's unnecessary. Not saying that what you brought up is unnecessary, I'm just saying the motion right now, I don't know if Mr. Taylor.
And I would just to add, to answer that question, if it is a topic that we would like to add to our proposed items to discuss, I would say it does need a motion to get on that list. All right, any further discussion? Susan?
I would like to propose we just pick 2 things off of this list.
Hold on just one moment with regards to that request. We do have a motion on the floor that's been seconded.
No, I'm good.
We are in the discussion phase of that motion. All right, any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to Mr. Muster's motion indicate by saying same. Motion carries. That will go onto the list of the potential items to discuss. Okay, now that we've handled that, Susan, please go ahead.
Because we do have a few things that we can be discussing, I would like to make a motion to just pick 2 things and let's just work on those. Can we take a vote of the 2 things that we want to discuss that we know that we would have a chance of passing?
So, and I can't guarantee it's going to pass or not. However, I believe at our last meeting, the goal and the consensus was to follow the order of the charter in terms of the articles of discussion. Now, I went out of order just because Article 2, we had numerous topics. It would likely take a minimum of 2 meetings to discuss all of those Article 2 topics. So I went with Article 1 and Article 3. So our next 2 meetings will be strictly Article 2 topics because we're going in order.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I'm going to tell everyone, based on my list, again, everyone's going to get this list. It's just organized by article. I have 2.2A, the County Commission, number of districts, and single-member districts versus county-wide as one topic of discussion. And then section 2.2C, salaries and other compensation. That's, my thought is that we cover those in one meeting because I think that's going to be a lot. My goal is to work similar to this meeting, get subject matter experts for each of those topics to give us that education, that good foundation to work from. My envision for our next meeting, which would be in January, would cover 2.2I, initiative. I think those are the member initiatives, county initiatives. And then section 2.3D is in Delta, commission auditor. Like I said, discussion, each topic, I think, given 30 minutes of subject matter expert giving us some education and 30 minutes of discussion, that's 2 hours. So I think that's a good time frame for a meeting. So that's my goal. Any discussion on that approach? I know we've approved it, but I want to make sure everyone's still okay with that. Okay, by consensus, hearing no objections, we're going to go ahead and move forward with that approach in December, but maybe not January. I just ask for flexibility to switch as needed based on availability of those folks, because we do need them. So any further discussion from or comments from CRC before I seek a motion to adjourn?
Chair, I apologize, guys. I just want clarification. So when we do the commission auditor, is it also apropos to bring in the clerk of court as well? Because I think those two go hand in hand. Or is that the objective? I apologize.
No, it's a good question.
Otherwise, so
no, absolutely. And I appreciate the question. And I welcome any question from members of this commission. And yes, my goal is to reach out to Clerk Terry Green and request her presence to discuss her role as the clerk and also as the auditor for the county.
Also, on the salaries and compensation, I did reach out to, I don't know if that would be Teresa or Courtney. You guys have been so great. I'm so sorry to put more on you. But I think that's a good idea for some history lessons before we get into that topic, and what that looks like, just a suggestion. And they're a great resource, so.
And, last meeting, we requested, what did that language look like on the ballot?
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and request, Courtney?
So is that going to be on your next agenda?
That,
Or is that not, is that your January, December or January?
so hold on one second. The salaries and compensation, currently that is slated for December 15th's meeting, yes. So if you had that ballot language, that would be great to get to us prior to that meeting.
We'll include it as part of the agenda.
Perfect, okay. Fantastic. Any further comments?
Yeah, I just want to thank our guest speakers that we had come in today. I know it helped me as I was gathering my research before tonight's meeting. I know it helped solidify some of the research that I gathered. And then I would also, just for the public's sake, and for me, we don't always have to change the charter. So we don't always have to put something on the ballot. A lot of the things that, the heavy topic I think that's being discussed between some of the commissioners up here is salaries. Again, like Ms. Jett said, I just encourage you guys to look back at the prior for feedback and potential even guidance on that as well. So again, I will just emphasize that we don't have to come out of this charter and put something on the ballot, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. With regards to our next meeting and those topics, Courtney and Teresa, I did note, I have a couple of the summary reports from our last two CRC meetings, and I think they provide a good wealth of information and of knowledge of what was discussed. I can't recall, I believe the last topic, they did bring up salaries. I don't know if the CRC before that brought up salaries, but to the extent they did, can you include those summary reports with the agenda? Just for our review, that would be great. Thank you. Any additional comments before we adjourn? Seeing none, I will accept a motion for adjournment. Oh, I'm sorry.
I did actually, to the point that was made last time we met, wondered how the wording was when it was on the ballot. So I think that, again, I think that that matters a lot when you're reading what you're voting for and how you're gonna vote, seeing how it was worded before so that we can discuss how we would adjust the wording in the future.
Absolutely, and I know the request has been sent to Courtney to have the last 1, 2 ballots, however there's been ballot language be provided to us for our next meeting, because that will be a topic. I also, Steve Anderson provided me a very helpful document, which is this Tallahassee City Charter Amendments. And they actually were able to pass an amendment for the commissioner pay. And it has the wording of what was in that amendment. So I'm going to give a copy of this to Courtney and Teresa and ask that they provide that in our packet for next month's meeting so we could all take the time to review that. And Mr. Anderson, thank you so much for taking the time to pull this. I think this is going to be some great educational materials for us to review and help build, should we desire to move forward in that regard. Alrighty, thank you so much. Debbie, any additional comments? Thank you. All right, one last call before adjournment. All right.
Next meeting?
The next meeting is December 15th, 2025, 5 o'clock, same time. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Oop, I'm sorry.
Do we want the meeting dates after December?
Okay, so I do have a list here. Did your MAD meetings, were they moved?
Well, they aren't moved, but if you choose a date that they are on, you can ask them to be in another room.
Okay, so let me ask. Oh,
That's the problem.
yep,
January and February, they're both holidays.
Oh, they're both holidays. Okay. So based on the dates that I have here, and these are the dates the room's available, correct? All right, let's just look at January for starters here. I have the 15th. Let me.
Start with the 12th, because that's a Monday, right?
The 12th, but
The 12th is a Monday, or the 15th would be
but I have MADD here as. Okay, well, let's take a look at calendars. I'm pulling mine up at the moment. All right, so it's the second Monday in January. Does that work for everyone? Okay, that works for me. Does it, the 12th, yep, 5 o'clock, same time. Okay, do we all have agreement for the 12th? It looks like it. All right, so our next meeting for January will be January 12th, 2026. Oh my goodness. 5 p.m. All right, let's take a quick look at February. Apparently the 16th is a holiday, so let's take a look at the 9th. Can't do the 9th. I have one no for the 9th. Does that work for everyone else? Because the next date would be the 18th, which is a Wednesday. Those are a little. Is it Clay Day? Okay, well, that's definitely not happening. So the 9th, okay, generally does.
No for me.
So the 16th.
That's a no for you? So we just have two, and we can still, I believe, have a quorum even with two out. The only other dates that I have here is the 23rd, 25th, and 26th. 23rd, yeah, it's like the fourth Monday, I think. Oh, at 7. We'll be in the other topics. Oh, right, you're. Okay. So between, in the 25th and 26th, does that work for anyone or no?
25th and 26th of February?
Yes. Okay, there's too many people, aren't it? So I'm gonna cross off 25th and 26th because too many people are not available. The 18th is Clay Day, and I know most of us will be there. So it's just the 9th, or actually that's pretty much 9th or 23rd. Okay, so everyone raise their hand for the 9th. Who's in favor of the 9th? Okay, who's in favor of the 23rd? Okay, the 9th outweighs the 23rd. So let's move it to February 9th. It sounds like we will have a majority still. 5 p.m. And it looks like March 16th is our regular date, and that works. And we should be on schedule moving forward. All right, now that we have our calendars already set through March, I'll go ahead and accept that motion for adjournment. Second? Seconds? All right, perfect. We have a motion for, it's been seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, guys. We all have a good night.